Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming today. So, as you can see, we are here. We are doing Laravel Basics today. Let's build a startup, episode 1. So, this is the first part of a series I'm going to be putting together. Ooh. Do you also stream on Twitch or only here on YouTube? I tried Twitch, but to be honest, I prefer YouTube personally. I may start streaming on both eventually, but I'm quite new to the streaming business at the moment, so maybe I'll see. Right, so streaming. So all of my streams are added on here on the Lara Streamers, which is a great little project by Christopher Rumpel. That is larastreamers.com. I'll pop that in the chat for you. So feel free to pop there. We've got really great little functions to add streams to your calendar. You can just download the ICS file, and it makes it super easy to just keep up to date with what's going on in the Laravel world in terms of streaming. It's a little bit light at the moment. I think a lot of people are really busy. Enough about Lara streamers, because we've spoken about that a lot in the past, and everyone's speaking about it, so I don't need to go on. So today, we are doing Laravel Basics. Let's build a startup. So the idea is that in this stream, we're going to build a fictional startup from scratch. We're going to go from absolutely nothing at all to a full-on SaaS style startup by the end of it all. In this first stream, I'm hoping to, we'll get Laravel installed. We're going to start configuring our views, how we want to handle routing. And I've done a little bit of planning in the background. So it will be an ongoing series, and we'll revisit it over several streams. So what are we going to build? We are going to build a podcast streaming application, not a hosting service, because there's enough of them out there. More of a podcast streaming application, a little bit like the podcasts that you can get on Spotify or on your Apple Music, whatever you might use. So the idea is that the design is going to be minimal. The tech stack is most likely going to be inertia, so that we can have like a nice persistent stream of a podcast as you're going through the application. And the branding for the product is going to remain minimal as possible to allow the podcast brand to really stand out. We've got initial pages here that we're going to have. We're going to have home, about, pricing, jobs, and contact page. All of these are going to be relatively static. All of these will be blade and tailwind. It won't be any inertia on those pages. It'll just be nice static content. And if we go into these, we're going to have some very basic things going on here. It's just the homepage is all about capturing attention and why people should be joining. About page, it goes into a bit more detail on what the startup's about and what team members there are and any potential jobs that there might be. Pricing page, every startup needs to make money, right? I mean, that's the point of a startup. And it's going to have a nice little toggle to be able to toggle between annual and monthly pricing options. Obviously, jobs, we're going to have any, as a startup, you're always going to be hiring people eventually, as long as it's successful. So we're going to have a jobs page on there. I'm going to go through all of the functionality to build all of these aspects to it as time goes on. And then obviously a nice little contact page, because customers need to be able to reach out to you, right? We're going to try to follow a little bit of domain-driven design on this one. So we've got, because I can see this application starting to get a little bit bigger as time goes on. So I'm going to start off as I mean it to be. So we're going to have like a catalog domain. And this catalog, it kind of encompasses anything to do with podcasts and podcast episodes, including searching. So if you were to build this in a microservice approach, you'd have a catalog service. And then audience. So the audience domain is going to encompass both subscriptions and following, and it's all about the interaction with aspects from the catalog itself. Then we're going to have analytics. We're going to be tracking listens and views, and it's all about the meta information of the real domain and the real domain. It might be removed later on, depending how I build the analytics engine there. Obviously billing, because we want people to be able to take money, and the user is most likely to live within this one, or I'm going to create a shared domain for the user to live in. But the billing's all about taking money, basically, in payments. invites. We're going to have an invite system built into here with tracking codes and accepting invites and generating access code. So you can have a beta list and you can start to, slowly let people in, and those people can invite their friends to a limited amount, and you can track that sort of stuff going on. And then team. So the team's all about the startup itself. There's the job opportunities and any current team members that there are and that sort of thing. Then the main features list that I'm going to be working on is the beta access list, which is obviously people are able to register interest in joining the beta program. So the idea there is that you sign up as a user, but you can't really do much. You've got an account, but you don't have access to anything yet. And what we're going to do in the background is using feature flags is slowly grant people access. And basically, we're going to try and do a little bit of event sourcing with that one, so that when somebody's added to that list, we can store the fact that that's happened. We can react to those changes, and we can start to track how things are responding as more people are allowed in. Obviously, skip the waiting list. So if your friend gives you early access code, you can log in, you can enter your early access code, and you will automatically be added into the beta list. So you'll already be able to be on the platform. You'll be able to start using it, and then basically what will happen is, as soon as you are entered into that group, you will be given a certain amount of invites. So you can then start inviting your friends, searching podcasts, registering your podcast, following. So there's going to be a difference between following and subscribing. So when you follow a podcast, you're wanting to be notified if there's a new episode. Relatively simple. Subscribing to a podcast takes it that level further. And as a podcast author, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to you subscribe to a podcast if you want to receive more than just the podcast links. So the podcast authors will be able to create announcements and send them out to their subscribers, a little bit like with Twitch, where you've got followers and subscribers, but to subscribe, it doesn't cost money. It's just a different level. Podcast analytics, featured podcasts to allow podcast authors to eventually pay one-off cost for a month and say, right, I want to be on the homepage, just a little bit of a way for them to boost their audience. And then obviously audience management. As a podcast author, I should be able to see my audience. I'll not see any specifics about the users. However, I will see things like where they are from in the world if it's been registered, and all of those sorts of meta information that might be useful to me as a podcast author. And I should be able to send announcements to my subscribers, which will be an email message sent out to each subscriber. And this is kind of seen as premium content, a little bit like that Patreon model, I suppose. And then required packages, I'm going to be building these up down the bottom. The Laravel feature flags, that's a package I'm working on in the background. I might segue at some point throughout this series to start working on that to make sure it's done. A nice simple way in Laravel to start using feature flags, basically. So that is what we're building. Now we should probably just get started. So I've actually managed to fix a lag by using Google Chrome, so I'm extremely happy. So I've got nothing installed at all. I will zoom in lots. Let's reset that screen, and we'll just go, okay, so Laravel new. What is our project called? We called this Castr, C-A-S-T-R. It's a fictional startup. So if you have this company name, I do apologize. I am not trying to recreate your company. I'm just creating a fake startup. And we're going to use Inertia. Livewire is amazing, and I've done a lot with Livewire in the past, but I want to challenge myself with some Inertia. So here we go. I do not want Teams. Hey, Craig, thanks for joining, buddy. Definitely don't want Teams. Not something that I need right now, I don't think. If I do need Teams, I'll probably build up my own system in the background, but we shall see. We shall see. I'm more likely to go for collaborators on a podcast over a team approach. Might just feel a bit easier. While that installs, I'm going to go over to here and we are going to open our project, site and Castor. Open. Excellent. VS Code. Thank you very much. So that is still going. So in theory, now we don't need that. So we can come to here and we can go. My wife is off to play Pokemon. Right. So that is still building parts of it. So I'm going to come into here. And the first thing that I do, I drop this session database driver and we turn that into a file. It's local. That's all I need. So here's my Laravel application. We'll swap our name over because you want things to be Castor. There we go. We want things to be kind of like referenced back to the name in the mails and all those sorts of things. You have to come up with a different company name. Yes, you definitely are. Craig, I'm sorry if I've stole your name. I'm not actually going to make this a real startup. So feel free to use that domain name you've probably been sat on for many years. Right, I don't need the terminal anymore, so I'm just going to close that down. So we have our homepage. And that's it. I'm going to end the stream here. No, I'm only kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. What I would do is we'll create a database for this quickly. Going to add a new database. Castor, add that one. Perfect. Don't need Table Plus anymore, which means I can come up to here. We can swap this over to localhost, Castor root and root, I believe, most likely. Do we want anything else? Yeah, just playing. It's okay. I'll let you off. Mail from address. We will just say app at castor.com and app name. Yeah, there we go. We'll probably set this up later. I'm not intending to send any emails right now. All the AWS stuff, I'm not really worrying about. Pusher and all that stuff, I'm not worried about too much. I worked with, we got a question. So, hey, Steve, I know it might be off topic, but could you please tell me which one you recommend, Vilt or ToolStack? I work with both and I kind of like both. It's just I can't decide. That's a hard one. I mean, a lot of my personal projects, I use Livewire because I like Livewire. I like what it is and I like what I can do with it. But for this specific project, I need, I'm going to need like a persistent element across the application. I'm going to need like a podcast player as I switch pages. So I need that SPA experience. So I need to use Inertia. It depends what you need. If it's quite an advanced application that's going to have, lots of bells and whistles, jump straight into Inertia because, if you know Vue.js, it's easy. Just get going with it. It's fantastic. If it's relatively kind of cruddy sort of admin-y interfacey sort of application, then Livewire is perfect. Livewire can do a lot more, but you've got to be really careful about how you architect some of the components within your application, if that makes any sense at all. If you do have more questions about that, drop me a message or a DM or a tweet or something. I'm happy to go through all of that. I'm going to zoom in a bit because I'm aware that I usually shrink my screen size quite a lot on streams because of the lag issue I was having. But as it turns out, it's nothing to do with that, and it was me using Firefox. So I've zoomed in a bit. So the first thing I need to do, I've got my homepage. So let's organize my screens. Let's bring Safari back over here. Right, Safari, here we go. And what I'm going to do, actually, let's just remove from dock. Sorry, Firefox, you've offended me one too many times. So here's our homepage, and this is an Inertia app. So when it comes to inertia, you go to your, so you've got your package JSON here. I'm obviously using inertia view 3. We've got Tailwind forms typography. We're using Tailwind 2.0.1, so I'm just going to update that and PM update. To be honest, I don't know why Firefox creates lag. I've had major issues in my past streams with any parts of my screen displaying. It's been tricky. Bigger enterprise apps, I should go with Vilt. Enterprise, I actually think with enterprise, you might be better with tall stack, because the problem with the Vilt stack or any sort of SPA front end is the JavaScript support in any sort of enterprise. Sometimes they disable it as an organization. Sometimes they're stuck on older versions of IE, or sometimes they're limited what they can do. Whereas with Livewire, it is fetch requests, which you can provide a polyfill for if you need to. Or alternatively, if you watched Caleb's talk from the latest Laracon, you can use general like forms and general actions as fallback for when JavaScript's not working. So it's a really, really, really good kind of fallback. So if let's say you got a form that does something using Livewire, and if JavaScript's not enabled, then it can send through to a controller and things will work, and it's just fantastic. Right, I'm just going to quickly run an npm run dev. That is lots of stuff updated. Well, not that much stuff, I won't lie. So, okay, where are we? We have got Laravel installed. We've got Tailwind. We've got Vilt. Hey, Marcel. So what do we want? We want to start building our pages. So if we go into resources and views, we kind of like got this app.blade here. And what this is like your entry point for inertia. And then if we're on local, it'll do some browser sync stuff. I think this might be new. Hey, Alex, you're only about 5 miles away from me, but you've joined me on the stream. Thank you. Thanks for joining. So yes, as I was saying, app.blade.php in your resources views. This is like your entry point for your inertia app. And think of it like your index.html in like a Vue CLI app, or in your Next.js app, or one of those. Things will just get injected where they need to be. Because I'm not going to do any server-side rendering or anything like that right now, I won't worry about that. So in our routes, we've got a web here. So let's just clean this up a little bit. Our home page currently is an inertia welcome screen. So we're already using inertia. Dashboard is inertia. That's all fantastic. Yes, this is what was wrong with Firefox. Thanks, Grant. I'm glad one of us knows what the hell was going on, because I surely didn't. So when I'm building applications like this, first thing I like to do is come over to my root service provider and just work on this. So the first thing is, because I'm Steve, I like to declare script types, because I like to catch those odd times when you're sending something that shouldn't be sent. And I like to clear out some of these, and I like to do return types instead, because I know what the service provider is doing. So I can clean that up, and I know that's returning void, and all of the names are relatively good anyway, so I'm okay. So the first thing, right, okay, so for now, we're going to forget about the API, which is rare for me, but we're going to forget about the API. And we definitely don't need the namespace, that's for sure. We want to add things, full paths to our controllers within our roots files to allow for better IDE completion. Thanks, Jenny. Yes, so much better. And the first thing I do, so that's going to be like anything to do with our web application. And what I like to do is I create a separate one above this. So we will say we're going to use the same middleware. We're just going to use web. And then we are going to group. Let's go to the base path. And because I'm on PHP 8, I can say that the path is going to be roots static. Because these are all my static roots, right? They're not doing much. So again, we'll fully PHP 8 this. We'll make it like really PHP 8 and make it look like super amazing. And then when we group, we have to pass in a callback. Which goes to that, which does this, and then we can just tidy this up, and there we go. And that is a PHP 8 version, and it looks really nice. Even sound seems to have improved. That could be Chrome. It could have been Firefox causing the issues. And I've also charged my Pixel Buds, so that could also help. While I'm here, I'm just going to do this one as well. So we've got middleware here, because we're definitely going to want web root, right? You know, it's a web application after all. And then within the group, we've got a callback, the base path, which is this path. If you can do this already, I definitely recommend it because it makes your application look really nice and straight to the point here. But let me just add a quick note here. So static application roots, all public pages. So this is our static application. So anything that isn't going to require inertia at all. So what we'll do before we do anything else is actually create that file. Otherwise, we're going to get a complaint. So roots, new file, static.php. VS Code look, yeah, I added a new theme as well. I thought I'd dabble and use a new theme at the same time. So there's our root service provider. So all the only change we've done here, other than detect doing strict types and sorting our imports, we've cleaned it up a bit. And in our boot method, we're still configuring rate limiting. For now, we've commented out the API because that's going to be a completely other thing at another point. All we've done is added a new set of roots to load in, static. Our static roots. And what I will do, because I like to name things as well, so this takes a value parameter. So value static. So that allows me to name things really nicely. So there we go. We've got the middleware we're going to use, which is a normal web middleware. We're going to set a prefix all of the roots within there with a name of static colon. Then we're going to group all of the roots that are within the static.php, which we've now created. So there's that. So the first thing we need to do is this web root here. We don't want that. We will need that. So we can pull that across. So firstly, this is relatively static. There's not going to be too much going on this page. So let's just say view. It's our home page, and we're going to put it in static pages home, and we're going to give it the name of home. So now, if I just do a quick root list, artisan root list, and we'll drop in the columns equals URI action and name. Actually, we don't really need the action for this point, so we'll just do URI name. Okay, so we have got an error already. Call static undefined array offset. Okay, so something's complaining, and it might be part of PHP 8 naming. So let's just comment this out for now. And what we'll do is we are going to do that, and that. Save that, and let's see if the error still persists. No. So it's got an issue with PHP 8 names right now, which is relatively common at the moment, unfortunately. Always worth trying. I haven't had too many issues in other parts of Laravel. Maybe providers is just the one place where I can't do it just yet. So we'll just drop all of this onto one line for now. Bear in mind, I am relatively zoomed in. So usually I would be seeing it about this size. So it is not as long as it looks. Right, so we'll do that. So close that web down because we don't need it. We've got that. So get this again. So if we scroll over, this is all of the routes we get out of the box with Jetstream. So we've got all of a user profile of confirmed passwords, two-factor challenges, creating an API, CSRF cookie, resetting password, register, login, log out, forgotten passwords. And here we go. Our home route. The name is static home because we prefixed that within the root service provider. So now I just need to load that page. So if I go to here, it's going to complain that it's not found. So first things first is I can start to set up the structure for how I want this to work. So let's create a static within there. We've got some pages, and the first one we want is our home.blade.php. So here is our home page. It is currently empty, which is absolutely fine. It's kind of how I want it right now. So we need to think about layout because we're going to have this. We're going to have a layout in here. Here's our app layout for all of this stuff, all of the inertia stuff using Vue. That's all your Jetstream stuff and our pages. So what I need is I need to start adding like layouts in here and any partials and components that I'm going to want to start using. So if I just create a new components, so I want to create a app layout component. So I can call it app layout.blade.php. And within here, we can just tell you what, I will grab that from somewhere. Where have I got it? I've got it on my website. I've got a kind of a pre-set up one, I believe. So if I just show the page source, I'm going to grab all of that and delete what I don't want because that is all pre-set up. So here's our app layout. Bang, we've got everything. And what we'll do is we will quickly format that, hopefully. Right, we don't want any of these things in here. Kind of don't want the footer or any of these divs. Tailwind docs. Is there one in the Tailwind docs? Well, that would make it easier. Getting started. So installation, HTML starter template, bam. You, Alex, were absolutely right. So for now, I'll just drop that in there. So we've got the HTML head, all of that stuff. We'll probably build this up a little bit later on. If we go have a look in our JS, no, in this part here, we can pull in our style sheet there and our font from there. We could probably also, we're not going to pull in the JavaScript. We're going to do JavaScript slightly differently. I could have probably just grabbed this. What am I talking about? Right, so there we go. So I don't want inertia. I don't want any of that. I don't want that or that. Yeah, that looks perfect. That's what we want. So the other thing that I typically do here is I create a stack up here for the head, and then I create a stack down here for any scripts. And this is going to be our main layout up here. We'll have a slot in here for the main body, and then this will just extend it so I can go X app layout. Ooh. There's our app layout. Just going to extend it, and then this, I believe, I can just do. I believe I can just do slot. I've not started from scratch with this for a while, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up something that I've been working on before. Close all of this down. Let's come to our resources, views, components, app layout. Yeah, we just drop it in like that slot. We can pass all of this sort of stuff in. This application is actually using Inertia and Livewire, so it's kind of fun to do. So here's our slot. That is our main page there. So if I just come to here and write test, we should now have test on the page. If we show the page source, we've got our fonts, we've got our styles, we've got our body, test, perfect. That's exactly what we want. We've got our first page. So where do we go from here? We want what's going to be persistent across our static pages, our kind of our marketing style pages. So this is where I come to Tailwind UI. And I pre-asked Adam Wathen in advance if I'm allowed to show this screen, and I am. Wanted to double check that before I do anything. So this is absolutely amazing if you haven't already purchased a copy. So I can come down here, I can get a page examples, a landing page, and just kind of see, okay, and what am I using? Yeah, am I using React, Vue, or HTML? I'm using HTML right now. So I can kind of look at this and be like, okay, great. So a lot of this is kind of looking roughly what I want it to be. That's looking good. Maybe the footer I might do slightly differently. Here's another one. You know, which parts of this is standing out to me? Because I can just grab one and just start working with it, right? It's kind of the beauty of Tailwind UI. So I'm going to start with this top one because I kind of like this purple box bit down here, and I quite like this menu. And when this gets down to mobile, it looks pretty cool the way that it's all set up. So the only problem I've found with this is if I come to the code straight away, yeah, this part's fine. This tells you that you need to install Tailwind CSS forms, but then it's got all of the kind of the toggleable parts that you need to worry about adding when using Alpine, which I don't really enjoy. I like it just to be done for me like it was originally. Maybe I'm just being lazy. So if I just come back to the preview, what I tend to do, I just kind of inspect elements and just copy it straight from here. But before I do that, I know I'm going to need Alpine.js for the static pages. I want something minimal when it comes to JavaScript. So I'm just going to go ahead straight away and just grab the production version because the last thing I want to do is forget that I'm not using the production version. So I can just drop this in here, Alpine.js. Drop that in there. And that's deferred. That is all great. Excellent. We've got Alpine on our app already. So back to our page. Don't need Alpine anymore because we've got you. Thank you very much, Caleb. So I'm just going to inspect this. It would be amazing to see Tailwind UI have Alpine examples. I think I was watching the Laravel Worldwide meetup, and I think they mentioned something about it. Obviously, don't quote me on that one because I'm not actually sure. But I believe they said something about it. Right, so I'm just going to copy the HTML from that. That is what I want. I want that header. I like it. It works for me. So come to here. We're going to want our navigation up here, right? We're going to want I could just paste that in and leave it there and say, right, okay, let's make a really messy layout, but that's going to really, really bug me. So what I'm going to do instead, within my components, I'm just going to create an appnav.blade.php, drop that in there, save it. Let's see if we can format it. Yep, we can format it now. So we've got all of these parts within here. this is our nav, which we just copied. The only thing I've now got to do is clean up some of this component stuff. Because by default, the way that Tailwind UI is doing it is doing it in a specific way. So we've got the key down. When we key down, we want to do open as false. And then we're not going to have this close popover group window for now. I'll worry about that later. We've got a logo, which I'm not too bothered about. We've got a button where we're going to click and we're going to toggle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at that and I'm just going to find any click toggles and I'm just going to change them all in one go. And we're going to turn open into the opposite of open. And then mouse down, cool, that's fine. There's opening the menu. Here's some more data here. X data popover group. Okay, let's just ignore that for now. And let's X data, we can clean that part up there. Drop that X in it because we don't want it. I'm going to key down escape. We'll bring that up a line so that we can just say that open is false. And now we will close that popover group again. Oh, that's kind of cool. So last year at some point, Caleb was on a live stream working on Alpine, and Adam sent him a message live asking for help with a Tailwind UI component. That's pretty cool. Right, what I'm going to do, anything on here, lots of clicks, clickety click clicks, state off, items, blah, 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 X show, click away, open false. Let's just see what that looks like. So we'll come to our layout here. And what we'll do X app nav there. So now if we come back to Caster, we've got a nav. So if I just shrink that, and we can now shrink this, it now shows it's exactly what we want it to be. Nice and easy, and it's working. So perfect. The next step, that's not my logo. I don't have a logo, so I'm just going to come to Heroicons, and I'm going to search for podcast because I know it's got a microphone. I can copy that, and I'm going to use that as my logo. So what I will do is I'll create an app logo component. I'm going to use this in multiple places. What I would do, I would just pass in attributes here. Nice and clean, blade component, done. Can I format this to make it look nicer? Yes, I can. So here we go. Nice, simple SVG for podcast. And what it means I can do on my app nav, I can now come up to where this workflow logo is. And I can say X app logo. And then we can grab that, drop that in there, remove the image. And the only thing I need to double check is what was it? I can't remember what it's called now. I'll come back and fill that back in when my mind wakes back up. So we've got our X app logo there. So if I just kind of search for workflow, so we've got workflow image down here, so I can swap that over again. Drop our logo in there just by using a nice little component. Just drop the same class in because we want it to look the same. We just want our logo as an SVG. Workflows up there. And what we'll do, we'll just swap that to Caster. No more workflow. Perfect. So now if we save that, come back to here, we have our little icon. So we can style that. We can make that look relatively nice. What we'll do is means we need to add some color onto this, and we'll just do something like text indigo 500 for now. Refresh that. Perfect. That's what I want for now. Just a nice color on it. There's our except logo there, and we will just drop a class in there as well, so that on mobile it also goes to the same color, or sorry, in this part here it'll go to the same color. So perfect. So the next thing I need to do is think about, so we've got all of that. I don't understand post CSS that much, so I'm not going to worry about this right now. We've got our navigation. Here's our main navigation. We're going to want like our next part, this big box here. So that means we need to make a slight change to this part here. So if we go to the slot, we're going to want to say, okay, so we've got a header and we've got a main, then eventually we're going to have a footer in there. So within our main, we are just going to pass in slot. So we'll create our component for footer later. So we'll just like footer in there for now. Here's our main component. It's going to be right underneath that. So within here, we can start to add our header component. So what we'll do is just come ahead, inspect this, and we'll customize this. We'll grab what we want from it, and then we'll customize it. So here is our hero section. So if I just kind of copy the HTML, come back to my page, which means I can just say, okay, so here's our hero. And now let's format that document quickly. Perfect. So it's got all of our stuff in here. Let's just go and have a look at it. Bam, there we go, looking cool. This is how we want it to look. We want a nice, same sort of consistency when it comes to the brand color. Nice little opaque buttons going on. Nice background image, which we could probably get something else from Unsplash. So let's go to Unsplash and let's just search for a podcast. Let's see what it gives us. That one's pretty cool. So copy the image address for that. And we can just say, grab that, and we can say podcasting. And let's just have a look. Bam. That looks more on point, doesn't it? Something nice and simple. Eventually, we'll probably customize that a little bit more, but we'll get there. So if I come back to here on my home page, we've got like a strap line, find new podcasts, grow your audience, and then a little description. So if we look at this here, we've got a span within the H1. So what we'll do, we will say, find new podcasts and grow your audience. Let's see what that looks like. That's not bad. The font's probably going to need to change at some point, but I've not really done any branding or anything like that, so I'm not overly worried. So the next step, let's just grab a little description, which we pre-prepared, and it just says with Caster, we unlock the potential in your podcast, allowing you to have direct access to your audience in a way that won't disrupt their privacy. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of a strap line. Hey, yeah, I'm really good, thanks. How are you? And then we've got two buttons here. We're going to get started in live demo. So what we want those to be is join the beta and sign in. So we'll say, what colors are these? We want to join the beta to stand out, right? So join the beta and then sign in. Bam, there we go. Join the beta and sign in. So straight away, we've got the start of a home page. Got a nice image following our brand color, which we're going to stick to purple. Going to customize Tailwind so that we can have a BG dash brand or something like that. And it allows us to do a little bit more, and we can just kind of clean it up a little bit so we don't have to remember exactly what version of Indigo we were using. Maybe we'll use CSS variables as well to make it a bit more fun. So here we go. Very clean and very minimal. We've got a nice navigation. We've got our first part of the home page. Next. So we're probably going to want to like show off some cool people that are on using this, aren't we? So why don't we just inspect this? Let's just grab this, eventually we'll be able to pull this directly from the application and just say, okay, give me, the most popular 5 podcasts and just grab their logo or something. So let's copy the HTML from that. Eventually that'll be dynamic. So for now, we will just say, okay, so here's our hero, and underneath here, popular podcasts, drop that in there, and we will just format that again. For now, we'll just keep those images the same. Some of the most popular podcasts you have heard of are using our platform. Something simple like that, got some logos in there, add some kind of brand cohesion there. So people are like, oh, great. Tuple or Static Kit or Transistor, they use this, and it makes people kind of connect to it a little bit more. It's like, okay, so if these companies or this podcast is using this service, I listen to them. I like the sound of it. I think a format as well as format. Ooh, Blade. Okay, so what extensions am I using? I've got Browser Preview installed. That's really good for just kind of like if you're just doing HTML stuff. I got the Laravel Blade formatter by this fella up here, or this person. Sorry, I don't know if you're male, female, or what you might define as. We've got Laravel Blade snippets installed. Not that I use it much. If I'm really honest, I could probably remove that, but it's doing syntax highlighting. Let's drop the recommended. I think that's it for the Laravel stuff. A lot of these are disabled at the moment. Yeah, let's just disable that. Oof, reload. No, thank you. Not right now. I'm on a stream. Okay, so popular podcasts. That's the next part of our page. So that's what I'm using. No problems, buddy. No problems. So the next step, we don't really want this bit. This isn't really relevant to what we want to do. What else do we want on here? We kind of want to show something cool. Something like that maybe, or for resources. No, nothing like that. That's kind of nice. All of it looks good, doesn't it? Tailwind UI is just fantastic. Okay, so maybe none of those are looking like what I want. So let's see what else we've got in here. We've got some blog sections, team sections, some stats. Let's look at some stats. Maybe some stats would look good, but maybe not directly after logos. So we'll probably add something in between that. Something like this, simple on brand. Something nice and simple, but something on brand. So there's no JavaScript that's required for this. So I can just grab this, come back to here. Okay, so underneath that, we're going to do some stats, drop that in there. And now let's just format that one quickly. And what we'll do is trusted by over 1 podcast hosts all over UK. That's just me. Some more explainer text here. This is usually something that you'd do some meetings on, and you'd go, okay, so what's our language going to be like? So we do 10 because it makes it look nicer. Okay, trusted by some of the world's most popular podcasts. Something like that. There we go. So some explainer text, and we're going to have some stats there. That font looks a little bit too Comic Sans to me, so we'll probably change that shortly. We want something in between, logos and stats. We want something kind of, why are we here, basically? Why, if we go back to here, it's meant to be catching people's attention. It should highlight the purpose of the application and why people should use it. and why people should add their podcasts to it. So what we need to look at here, we need some sort of some features, maybe some feature sections. Here we go. So this looks cool, but maybe a little bit too much for me. We want it nice and simple, something like this, all in one platform. A feature list, that looks kind of nice, but I don't know whether that's going to make it feel one lopsided on this page. On offset grid or a simple stuff, not too much color. We don't want too much color on it. Grid with an offset icon. That looks like it could work. So is it no JavaScript needed, so we can just copy that. We can copy that to the features. So if we come back just before stats, we can say, okay, so features, let's just drop those in there. And now we can just format that, come back and have a look at it. So we've got a nice section here. I quite like that overlapping white to gray with this box slightly over it. And we're going straight into some features before we're going into, some stats and that sort of thing. So this is good. This is looking nice. Homepage, looking good. Don't want to save that. No, don't be silly. We're going to keep, we're going to eventually move lots of this into components because we're going to want buttons everywhere. We're going to want, iconography in certain places. So we're eventually going to start moving some of this out into components. But first off, I like to get the scaffold. I like to kind of put things on the page and make it look and flow well. I've got my navigation. I've got my, my homepage hero with a call to action within it. But then we've got, an eye catcher, which is saying, okay, these people use it. And we're like, okay, great. So, oh, wow, these are the features they do, which is probably why these people use it. As you scroll down, then you want to see things like, next, I think what we want to see is something like like featured podcasts. So let's have a look at that next. Some featured podcasts. We don't want testimonials. That could be like right at the bottom. Maybe a little bit like a blog or a team section. What do these look like? Not quite what we're looking for. Really good on the about page, but maybe not for this page. So let's come back to the blog section. This is almost like a how-to on Tailwind UI, isn't it? So from the blog, we could probably have to create a personal card for this sort of thing, aren't we? Is there anything that's going to look good? Anything in the team that looked good enough? I think this would work. Yeah, let's look at this. We'll just copy that, and we'll edit and we'll play around with this. So let's come back up here and say, okay, so we know that requires Tailwind 2.0 because I'm currently on it. So now we can say featured podcasts. This is usually where I'd start to extract this featured podcasts out into like a Livewire component. Because then I can, leave a querying in the Livewire component and just let that handle stuff. So drop that. What we're going to do, we don't want any of that. Let's make sure it's formatted properly, and let's just go have a look. Let's have a look. So, bam, our team. Okay, we don't want it that color. We want this color, maybe. So we got the popular podcast and we got the featured podcast a little bit further down, adding some more contrast to it. Great. So we've got one podcast there. We're probably going to style this slightly differently. Podcasts of the month. And it'll be something like we curate and score the latest podcasts for you to find something that suits your taste. Right, okay, so then we've got an LI. So this is going to need to be a component, really, isn't it? So let's just drop that into one line. And let's create a podcast component. So podcast card components. podcasts card.blade.php. Great. So for now, I'll just grab that li and we'll just move that in. So now I can just say x podcasts.card. And what we'll do, we'll just do 3 of those like that. We'll come back and build a component for this a little bit later on. This is more for structure. So there's all of that. That looks pretty cool. We've got stats, testimonials. Do we want testimonials? We probably do. We'll go for something clean and simple, something like this. Okay, something that's not too in your face. It's not, the brand one looks great, but it's too purple if you want to keep your brand clean and out the way a little bit. So maybe that could go before podcasts of the month on the homepage. So featured podcasts. Then we could do testimonials. Here we go. Let's get some structure on this. Ooh, that didn't do anything. Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, no, that could go after podcast of the month. That'd look much better afterwards. Let's move testimonials after the stats, I think. See what that looks like. Podcast of the month, some stats, some testimonials, then the footer. That's what I think works for that homepage. So let's go to the footers. Let's just grab a footer for now, and we will just grab something like this, simple centered maybe. Let's look at the page. There's a lot in the center. You're drawn to the middle a lot. So let's go with the centered one. Just grab that, come over to here, and in our components, we can just create a app footer .blade.php, drop that in there, and let's format that and copy. This is where we can just grab stuff from config, and we say config app.name. And in this bit, we will just do like now, format year. We're going to need to put this on the layout. So that footer there can be X app footer. Drop that in there. Bam. 2021, company name, all rights reserved. Nice and simple. We've got a homepage. It's not fancy. It's still got a lot to do to it. There's some font pairing to do. There's some, some colors to sort out, some components to create. But we've got a homepage. When you're working in a startup, a lot of the time it's a race to try and get as much done as you can. So you kind of got to take your wins where you can. You got to approach it in a certain way. So you start with your static pages. Let's get our marketing pages out there. We can add some functionality for joining the beta, and then we can start getting people interested while we start adding features. But we, in terms of building, we can start with, right, let's add a structure of the page while the design team are working out the final tweaks on the branding, and then we can pull that branding in, and then the content team or whoever's doing your content can start to kind of align the content to the structure that you've got. You start adding these things after the fact. So what we'll follow a similar sort of pattern. So we've got a home page. Let's move on to our about page. So let's just close all of these, which means we can now come back to our roots static, and we can just create another one. Let's just go root view. We've done the home page. Let's look at the about page next. So root view, about, and this is going to be static pages about. And we are going to name this about as well. Following a convention, our static pages are all views. They're all following a similar folder structure. They've got predictable names. It's all stuff which will help you build some of this really quickly. So if I come down to my resources, views, static pages, create a new about.blade.php, I know I'm going to want to extend the app layout. So I've got my layout there. So we'll take a quick segue and go back to the navigation. And where we have got this here, we can say, okay, so our home page, we're going to go to the static home. Great, that works. And then if we just look for the logo there as well, not really going to click on that. Anything else? That's it. It's the only two ones. So if we come back, this now goes to the home page, but one of these menu links needs to be the about page, right? So if we go look at solutions, so we don't really want that one. We want this before it, ideally. So we can say, go to the about page. I'm going to route this one quickly through to static about. Close out search. And there we go. If we just refresh this, we've got an about page. Bam. We can now start to navigate. Perfect. It is a full page refresh. I'm okay with that for static pages and marketing pages. The most important part about your marketing pages is, the SEO that can be performed on those pages. So you're using, unless you're already using SSR with inertia or something like that, then static pages work well. So we've got our about page. So now what do we want on our about page? It's a fictional startup. It should have a mission statement and section on team members on there, and link, and should also have a link to potential job openings. So let's start this page. What we're going to want to do here is, if we come back, we're going to want like a page header of some description, aren't we? So hero, feature, none of these. Call to action, we're going to create one of those which we can drop onto pages. Testimonials, content headers. Nope, they are navigation headers. We want, let's keep scrolling. We're going into the app UI now instead, because I know they've got page headings within there. We can just grab something like this. Which sort of one would we want? We're going to want something relatively clean and simple. Maybe there's something in one of these examples, like the pricing. Maybe not that one. We don't want options on the side for the about page, really, do we? We want this to be relatively clean. It's an about page. It's meant to be kind of clean and simple. This, something like that. That looks perfect for what I need. So if I just inspect this element, wait for my dev tools to wake itself up. Come on, dev tools, you can do it. I'll have a drink while I wait for you. Okay, well, I can kind of guess, right? Okay, it gave it me. Header section, that. So we will copy that. We'll grab the HTML, go to our about page. Right, so our about page. We're going to want a component. A lot of these static pages are going to have headers, right? So we can do a new folder, app header, or app header.blade.php, or app heading, app header. Why did I make a directory? No, not again. Stop doing it. I've had a long day, haven't I? So app header.blade.php. Then we can just drop that in there. And what we'll do is we'll just quickly format that. That's a page. Got that there. Then we're going to have this part. Drop that. And so we've got three main sections to our heading here. We've got what I'd call the heading, subheading, and the message. So what we'll do is we will go heading there. And within here, we'll do a, if we have a subheading, we'll display it. And then we will turn this into subheading. What I like to do on the subheadings is allow it to be kind of evaluated just in case I need to add spans or anything specific in there to, to style it in any specific way. And then again, like this one, if we have a message, we can just quickly end that one and just drop that message in there. And just like before, we're just gonna do the exclamation marks so that we can add HTML into this one. So message, there we go. So let's come straight to here. And the first thing we want to do is X app heading. So if we go to the page, it's going to die. X app heading. Can't find it. It's header. X app header. I apologize. So we can't find heading. That's fine. Should we provide a default? Probably not. We don't want to not make people do this properly. So if we say that our heading is about us, we've got an about us part. So that is, that's that part. That's not what I want, is it? So this is the message. So we can say is set message end is set. So that's not going to want to be a H1. That is for sure. That needs to be a P. If that's a P tag, drop that message from there because this is all moving down a level. So here's our subheading and here is our heading there. For Excel. So this is what we want our page H1 to be. A little bit misleading there. Right, so now about us, perfect. That's what we want. A big, bold, this is what this page is. So we can go to the home page, go to the about page, about us, perfect. That's what we need. So the next step is we need like a mission statement. So if I have a look at some of these examples again, go back to the landing page, for example. Some of these have got some good little bits of content, which I've seen already, which I think would look absolutely fantastic. This would look amazing. So what we've got here is we're going to have like a quote from the founder. We've got a mission statement, and you've got some stats. And then we've got like learn more about this. That's all pretty cool stuff. This is what we want. Copy that HTML. We're going to change some colors. We're going to change some images. We're going to do some magic, but we'll get around to that. So we've got a heading. Page header. Then on the about page, we're going to have the mission statement. That. Format that. Let's see how it looks. Bam. Straight in, you've got wow factor right there. It's like, great, cool. So you've got a quote directly from the founder. You've got why they created this. You've got some stats of when it was funded, the employees, all of that interesting stuff. So let's go through and just get rid of some of this that I don't actually want. So we've got an image there. We don't have rows, so let's get everywhere where we're saying rows, and we're just going to change that to indigo. Bam, straight away, back on brand. So where it says on a mission, we only want maybe 2 paragraphs at most. We'll drop that down to 1 paragraph. one good paragraph to explain the mission statement. And we can say something like, on a mission to enable you to grow your audience more effectively. Some marketing spiel like that. Going to have some of that. This is all looking good. I don't quite like some of that even me with my relatively good eyesight, that accessibility just looks slightly off there with the purple. So there's a content stats. We want to come up here a little bit. So we've got our block quote here. Text semi-bold. This SVG I'm going to drop. I don't want that SVG really. So I drop the SVG from the background. That looks better already. I can kind of understand that more. We can change that image a little bit later, change the logo and all that sort of stuff when we get the final logo through. So now we want to go onto our teams. Okay, so now we can come up back to our team section. We've already used that component, so I don't want to reuse that one. And currently we're we're balanced quite heavily image on that side, text on that side. So let's look at a text and then images on that side to add some difference to the page. This one's cool. So let's see if there's some mobile too. That works well. I like that. I'm going to grab that one. And then we are going to mission statement. We don't need underneath that. Team. Format that document. More people will appear later on. Bam, straight away. Looking better, looking good already. We've got this background here. I reckon that could even go slightly darker. So if we come back up quickly to that, let's just, what's going on? Yeah, there we go. So we've got here's a view box, here's a pattern. Let's drop that pattern. We've got background gray. Let's put that up to 100 and let's see how that looks. There you go. Make it stand out a bit more. Interesting shapes. So our team, let's add the same team member over again or extract it to a card usually. So we could do something like components, team, card, and then we could, just grab that, come there, drop that in. Eventually we'll pass in values and that sort of thing. But for now, what we're just going to do is we're going to do it nice and simple. And we're going to say x team.card. And we're going to put 5 of them. Here we go, 5 team members. And then eventually you'd probably add another fake one, which is a link to, job openings or something. So this page is very stark. It's got hints of the brand so far. So what I think it needs next at the bottom is a nice call to action that is on brand before we finish off that page. So maybe something like that. Something, lots of cool stuff. That looks really cool. They created new things on Tailwind UI. I love it. Absolutely love it. Simple center branded. So because the images are going on this side, that side, and this side, I think maybe a nice centered thing would look okay here. So I would just grab this. And what we'll do is we'll make another component. But what we'll do is we'll do something like a sign up CTA. Something like this. What we'll do, we'll format that quickly and we'll say, what do we see on the homepage? It'll be something similar, won't it? It'll be find new podcast, grow your audience. find new podcasts, grow your audience. And this would be some like text stuff. And then we'll have a button, which will probably be something like the beta link. So this would be join our beta access today. Let's go back to the About page. We scroll down, and then we haven't even added it. Right, okay, let's add it. Let's add it. That's the important part. Sign up, call to action, and then we can say X sign up CTA, and then eventually we could pass options in there to show different parts of it if we wanted to. So bam, right at the bottom, we're back on brand, back to the footer, and we can start navigating around again. So we've got a couple of static pages, and yeah, we need to think about content, but I'll work on content later, because content's like, it's not that vital at this stage of my process, how I would do it. Let me take a moment to go back to here. So we've got our About page. Obviously pricing we're going to need. So let's add a pricing page. Pricing is definitely important at this stage. And then we might take a slight break on that and start looking at how we're going to work with some of these features, perhaps. So let's go back to a static page, and let's go to root view. Root view. Oh, come on, fingers, you can type. Pricing, and we're going to go to static pages pricing, and we're going to name this one pricing, following a convention yet again. So the best way to do Laravel, I find, is to follow a convention. Whether it's your own convention or someone else's is up to you. But follow a convention, and you can't go too wrong. Right, so let's now come back to the navigation and do this next here. So this will be pricing, just like it says. Within here, we will do another route to static pricing. Like conventions, I use this to declare my routes. It's a static part of the application. If there's going to be sub pages, it'll be the main page, then it'll be the sub page like that. Yeah, a nice convention for you to follow. So let's go back to this. We can get a pricing. Let's make sure that this is, there we go. We've got pricing page now. So following conventions, nice and easy. So let's go to one of these pricing pages that we've got here. What have we got? We've got pricing options. That's kind of cool. Might not quite the style I'm looking for there. That's kind of cool. I like that, how it's got, one-off price, everything you need, frequently asked questions. Then you've got pricing plans, monthly and yearly switching. I don't know how I'm going to handle the billing on this yet. I mean, obviously it's going to use Stripe or something like that, or one of those platforms. But I don't know, from a billing perspective, this is just a growing your audience. There's a freemium model where you can start to, follow people, but it's a one-off cost. So I kind of like this idea. So what I originally thought was there was going to be like monthly pricing options with an annual toggle, so you can save on annual pricing, and each pricing option should list what features are available. But looking back through my features, I'm thinking, well, realistically, I just want people to pay a monthly amount, one-off. It's not going to have, many bands right now. Looking at my feature set, it's going to be you either joining to listen to podcasts, or you're joining to be a podcast author. So it's a one-off thing. So I kind of want something like this. So what I will look to do, maybe not that exact one, but we're going to grab this part. We're just going to grab it, and we'll worry about it later. Wait for our inspect element to reload. Let's just grab that because it's got a nice background gradient in it too. Let's see how it makes the pricing page look. So we've got all of that there. Just drop that in, and now we can just quickly format it. And let's go have a look at our pricing page. Bam. That looks quite nice, but is it following? Does it follow? Other than color, I think it might work. For now, I'll stick with it. So let's go from blue to via white. Yeah, it's not always that slow. Like if I come to, this is my application. So if I inspect element here, it's fast. The problem that we've got with Tailwind UI is that it's kind of this part within here. It's switching between, HTML, React, and Vue, and it's going to swap the contents within there. It's got full Tailwind brand colors, so the full whack of a Tailwind config. Whereas I'm using the trimmed down version, so it's not quite as noticeable. So we're going to go for indigo 50 via white, maybe 100. Perhaps that gradient isn't actually needed. I don't think it follows the brand, and it doesn't keep with the minimalist style that I was originally going for. So if we just drop that, everything you need for X amount a month, get started today. Features, perfect. Frequently asked questions, we'll grab that, and what we'll also do is we'll make that on brand as well. So that'll just be a nice brand indigo in the background, full width straight away. There you go. And then I'll probably just pull in the same CTA component, to be honest. So just grab this, just copy the HTML from that, and we just come across. And if we go for this, and we just say pricing info, drop that, and then we can say FAQ, drop that in there, format that, and then we can just say indigo 500. So let's find all the blue. Everything that's blue. Let's just grab all the blue, and we're going to change it to indigo. There we go. Back on brand in a way. Right, so we've got frequently asked questions, and then we're just going to jump straight back to the CTA. So very similar to what we just had on the About page with a sign-up CTA. What we'll do is at this point, we're going to look to add a toggle, because now we've got two colors next to each other. So if we come to the sign-up CTA, that is that color. So that's the color I want on the pricing page here. The dark one, the standy outy one. That'll blend in. That looks fine, but that's not how I want it. So on the sign-up CTA, I want to be able to pass in an option. So we want it to be brand or not. So indigo here, what we'll do is we'll do, if we've got brand passed in, we will turn that to indigo 700. If we haven't passed in brand, then we will just do this grade 15. So undefined variable brand. Set brand. So great. So now we just need to worry about these colors. So text, probably a nicer way to do this somehow. If we got brand passed in is indigo, so this will be white. If it isn't, we are going to be doing text gray 500. Oh, grat. What's text grat? Perfect. Maybe text gray 600 would make it stand out a bit better. There we go. That's all of that one. Block, block, block. Text indigo 200. That's not what we want. We want text. Gray 500 there. And then probably the same down here. Text like that. Ooh. This button might be a funny one. We might just have to keep the button the same or not. Okay, let's have a look. So we've got ahref text. If we have a brand passed in, then we are going to say indigo 600. Otherwise, our button is going to be white. Right, no, text gray 50, not white, not quite white. So our background is going to be if brand is passed in, then we want this one to be background white. Otherwise, we want the background to be indigo 700. And then hover background. Yeah, so I mean, I could probably like create a component in the background and do a lot of this in like the PHP side, but I'm scaffolding right now. That's not a bad idea. Once I've kind of built this part, because some of the colors are indigo 700, some are indigo 500, because it's kind of slightly texturalized, I will see what I can do with that, I think. So if we pass the brand in, then this is going to be indigo 50. Otherwise, we are going to do something like indigo 900, maybe. Bam. There we go. It's themed. So back to the about page, we were expecting that to be on brand. So on the about page, if we now come up to here and say something like brand is true, bam, there we go. Exactly what we want. So we can tweak that quite nicely. So that is our about, our pricing, our homepage. This will be something to do with features. So you can go look at features, partners company. That's probably partners and company are probably going to go. So let's go back to the app nav. Let's drop partners and company for now. That'll be features eventually. Sign in and sign up. So let's just hook those up. So this is going to be root, login, and root register. So sign in, bang, into our Inertia app, sign up into our Inertia app. Perfect. So we've got some static pages done now. Let's come over to here, get in it, get add. We're just going to add everything. Laravel project with some static files. Right. So a lot of the time I don't see the point in testing some of these pages, but you can write tests to say, load the homepage, assert C that, assert C that. But I'm going to focus most of my testing probably within the application side itself, just because it makes more sense to me. So homepage scaffolded, about page scaffolded, pricing, yep, looking good. Features, we'll add something a little bit later for that. Our next step is going to be, so let me Slack over in this window, because my wife said she would message me when she's back from playing Pokemon, and I bet she isn't. I bet she's not back yet. Are you back yet, wife? Let's see. Right, okay, so let's go back to Notion. So jobs in contact, we'll leave that for now. We'll worry about that in a little bit. So let's have a look at some of these features and what can we start with? Like the beta access. So people are able to register interest in joining the beta program. This will allow filtered access, so these features can be tested over time. Okay. Users are able to register straight away. However, they cannot access much without being part of the beta feature group. To allow someone into the beta access group, all you need to do is add them to the group. So I think the first thing maybe is going to be something like podcasts. We need to start looking at some of the data modeling for some of this, don't we? And audience management, how we're going to build that one out. We're definitely going to need to do some event sourcing and some of this to properly track it. I believe the new Sparsy event sourcing course and package should be out next week, or the update to the package, which will be great. What could we start with? Anyone got any preferences in the chat? What you'd like to see me work on next? Do you want me to cover more basics around static views, or maybe the contact page, because it's that one level beyond just a static page before we deep dive into some more technical aspects of it? I have no personal preference what I do. So while I wait, I am going to go and start making a few changes. So models are there, but don't really. So there's a million ways you can do some of this. Like if you look at Laravel Beyond CRUD, I don't know if anybody has read this or watched this. I happen to have a copy. It's pretty good. If you're not used to building large Laravel applications, I definitely recommend it. You're waiting for search, or let's start with register a podcast. We've got two options. Search technology is always fun. Search is good, but what I need to get Melee Search installed, and because I'm using Laravel, I'm literally just going to come down to Laravel Scout and just use that. Why cause myself pain, right? So registering a podcast. So what we'll do, we'll have to start get the users in first. So back to it quickly. So this is amazing. It's got some really good content, domain-oriented Laravel. They do it a very specific way, and Brent is, I wish I could borrow his brain just for an afternoon sometimes. But it's not the way I like to do it, and that's okay. Everybody likes to do things their own way. So what I would do, no, I don't want to enable dictation, thank you. I am going to come down to my composer JSON, and this is how I like to do this part. So I like to register a new namespace under the app that I'm building, and we're going to put all of this stuff under source. So let's just composer update. That means we'll get any, if anyone else is updating their packages at this time of night, but we're also, rebuilding our optimized autoloader so that we can have caster stuff within there. So now I can say, okay, top level, let's create a new source directory. This is like our business logic all within here. So within here, this is where we'd have things like domains. So now we've got domains. Let's have a look. What's going to be catalog is going to be first. And we'll start with shared. Shared. Within there, we're going to have models. Within there, we are going to have a user model. So this is basically going to replace this. So let's just drop that in there, and we can start to clear it up and make it the way we need it. So let's declare script types, because that is what I like to do. Let's sort imports, and this is caster domains shared models. And we're pulling in those traits. Fillable, that's fine. I like fillable. I usually go first name, last name, but for this I won't bother too much. Any casts that we're doing, accessors, cool. So that is all of that. So we'll add this in stages. So let's add the composer.json, adding caster namespace. And then we can add in everything within that. We can say git commit moving user model to domain under caster. So if we try to register now, we're just going to use that model. So let's just delete that. We don't want that. So if I do a president load, that's fine. Can I do root list? Yes. So it's going to break at another point. So this is where we need to come to our config and our auth. So if we come to config and auth, if we scroll down, what you'll see is we've got this user here. So what we need to do is we just need to expand that. Caster domain shared models user. That's what we want to use. So we've done that. That's all fine. So now we can come over to here and we can commit that. So we can get add auth, and we can. Okay, so we'll just commit that. Switching auth config to use caster user. Get add that and say that we are removing default Laravel user model. Missed an R. Cool. So that is all of that. So now we can come to our database factories, and let's just work on this factory now. So we're going to want the factories. We're still going to want seeded. We're still going to want things to work the way we'd usually want them. So all we're going to do first off is user, and we're going to import that from there. So add our declare strict types again. And then within here, I like to do this slightly differently. I like to actually bring in hash make and pass in the password, because it's a little bit easier to read, and I just like it. I like to see that hash facade in there for this part in particular. Unverified with stuff there. Cool, cool, cool. So we can do that. Factories, migration to seeders. We don't have any seeders running at the minute, which is fine because I don't want any just yet. Migrations, we've got all of our usual migrations. I'll keep the sessions table in case we switch at any point. If we come to app HTTP controllers, nothing we need to do in there. App actions, Jetstream, Fortify, create new user. So App models user, import the right user there. Okay, let's just drop that first, and then we can import right sort of user. Yep, all of that's working. Password rules, return a user. So let's do that. Return. Cool. I know how that works. I can drop that. All of that's working perfectly. So I can now add in my declare script types into that. Password validation. Don't need to do anything. Reset users. We're not actually getting the user model. Not getting the user model here. And we're not getting the user model here. So we don't need to worry about anything that we're not actually needing that user model for. That's not using an actual user model either. For now, we can just delete that models directory. We're not actually getting any oh, okay. Here we go. So user. So let's drop that one. And let's just re-pull this one in, import that one. So we're going to swap that for app models user. Database seeder, we're not bothered about. And we're just going to swap some of these over, and we're going to import, nope, undo that. Import the correct user model where we actually need it. Just to make this easier, so everything just works. Obviously, I didn't run the tests beforehand. These tests, some of them work, some of them don't. It depends if you've got features enabled. Some are skipped. But that's fine. I do not mind that. Delete API tokens. Let's just delete that. This is just, it takes a little bit of time. But it's worth it if you're building something slightly bigger. You're starting to get yourself organized before you're adding too many features. So you're not kind of going to have that nightmare of refactoring to domains later on, which is, yeah, it's not impossible, but it's not as easy as just starting from scratch, right? So let's grab the user. Use app user. Oh, that is not a bad idea, is it? Okay, so we're going to replace that with Caster domains shared models user. Just replace all of them. There we go. Right, so now we're just going to do I thought we had, oh, it's PHP artisan tests. Lots of failures. Okay, so we need to look for, where's that coming from? Factories, update password. It's the user factory. Okay, so some of the factories aren't lining up. I'm not going to worry about that because I will probably get rid of a lot of these tests and write my own because I like to do my own tests. Also, let's just test a migration first. Artisan migrate. Nothing to migrate. So if we come back to SQL Pro, come to our Caster database, users. Okay, so let's migrate and seed. So what we're going to do, I like to do this in all of my applications. Yeah, I know. I keep meaning to make snippets, but then I get busy building something, so I don't make the snippet. I really should spend some time getting this set up quicker. Make seeder. default users seeder. So what I like to do is in my seeders, when I run, I don't do that. I do a every time I have an app, I'm going to have a default users seeder so that I can come into here and just create the users that I actually need. Makes it easier for me. That means I don't have to register. Obviously, test registering, but I don't need to register. So I can say user, and this will also help me see if it's broken anywhere. So first, no, name. We're just going to say Steve. The email is just going to be gmail.com, and the password is just going to be password. No one would guess. No one's ever going to guess that. So that's calling that. That has got that. For each person that I need in my team, I can add them in a record here. So now I can just migrate, fresh, and seed. Bam. So come back to my database. I've got a user. So now I can sign in with my credentials. Login. Yeah, I'll save it. These credentials do not match our records. Login. And I'm in. I don't know why that opened in a new window. Okay, so we're just going to try it again. Cast a test. Login. Remember me. Okay, this is super strange. So let's just redo that. Let's make sure we haven't cached anything in particular. Make sure we've ran that. We can also do clear any cache that might have been created. Login. How do they not match? Also close the tabs in the editor. It probably would be. There's got to be. Wow, that's not going well, is it? Saved the plain text password. No wonder that's not working. Okay, so user create. That. Oh, Steve, what are you doing? No wonder it didn't work. Yeah. Let's blame it on something that it definitely wasn't. Login. So it's trying to take me somewhere. I just don't know where. Dashboard. 404 not found on the dashboard. That's fine. We can worry about that. Artisan boot list. We don't have a dashboard apparently. I thought we had one in our web. Roots web dashboard. We've got one, unless something's stopping it from loading in our root service provider. Yes, it is. We disabled it. Right. So now we can just uncomment that out. Drop that. Just going to clean all this back up because it caused issues with our last one. So let's just revert those changes to there. So now we've got our dashboard. We're back in business. How long? Ooh, almost 2 hours streaming. Perfect. So we're now in. Yeah, and we can start, Laravel jet streaming things. So we've got our user, and we were going to let's register the podcast. So podcasts, what we need to look at what builds up a podcast. So if we go to Full Stack Radio, for example, download a linked file. What's this going? Oh, no, stop. That almost opened up Xcode and went all that messy way. Open with VS Code. Bam. So here's an XML file for being generated by transistor.fm, and it's got lots of attributes to it. So we need to go through. We need to start thinking how we're going to build some of this. Do we want to get the Atom XML, P3 audio? We're going to want the titled. We want the generator description. Who it's copyright by, owner. Hey, do I have a guest? Yeah, give her a second. We're going to have a 5-minute cuddle break with a small person, so bear with us. Hey, little darling. Did you wake up? Is it a bit warm in your bedroom? Hey. Oh, come cuddle daddy. Oh, having children, it's a delight. Absolutely delightful. I get cuddles all the time. Do I use a bcrypt function or hash? I actually prefer hash. Bcrypt's great if I'm using bcrypt as an algorithm, but I like to add hash just in case that changes. Again, it's a personal preference sort of thing, to be honest. Oh, we've got a nice little monkey, haven't we? Oh, hello. Are you okay? What are you doing? Are you woken up? Yeah. Such a quiet baby. See, dribble on Daddy's t-shirt is fine. We don't mind some dribbles, do we? Daddy's very used to it. Oh. So, as I was saying, this is like the XML feed that's coming from Transistor, and there's a pretty much consistent standard. They're validated, so that they work nicely with iTunes and Google Play and all of the others. So all we need to do is look to kind of scrape this and build out what our database is going to look like based off of a feed, so that it's useful and we're getting as much value as possible out of it. Straight away, I'm seeing things like title and description and copyright and language, which is all going to be super useful. Then we've got image, which is possibly going to be optional because not everybody's going to add an image. We've got iTunes category. Oh, we're going to go to mummy. Here we go. Thanks, darling. See you in a bit, darling. Bye-bye. Right, she has gone. So some of these, I'm not 100% sure if we're going to be able to crawl properly the way we'd want to. I've had issues with these in the past. But then we get down to these items here, and these are the episodes themselves. So first off, we need to worry about anything above that. We need to look at all of this channel part, because that's our podcast itself. So a podcast is going to belong to a user. So we're going to keep this open. And what I'll probably do is I am going to copy that, and I'm going to stick that in Cedars data. Cedars data, and then we'll just do something like a podcast.xml within there. So we can save that in there. We can come back to it if we need it. So let's start with generating a migration for this. So we want to make a migration. I'm not going to do the usual make model with a migration flag because I'm going to push this into the domain approach. Actually, I will. I'll just copy it over. Be quicker. Model, and we are going to say podcast, and we want a migration. And that's all we want to start with: a migration and a model, and that is it. So if we come to app podcast, so source domains catalog. Models, we can now move that into there. So now we can say caster domains catalog models. We're not going to have a factory. Not worried about factories, if I'm really honest. Let's declare some script types at the top. And then we're going to want some fillable fields. And we're going to want some castable attributes. Yes, it's so good question. Shouldn't newly created models land in models? Isn't this else function? Yes. So because I deleted the models directory, it automatically puts it in the app namespace. It auto detects if there's a models directory available, and if it is, it'll move it within there. If there isn't a models directory, it'll stick it in the app namespace because it's assuming you're following that convention. Just because I deleted that models directory. So if I come here and just go like models there, and if I just create another one, and I won't create a migration, but we'll call it test. Within models, we've now got test. And you're most welcome. You learn something new every day. I mean, even I learn things all the time. I don't know everything. I just know what I know. So podcasts. Let's start with these. This is going to return void. Again, this is going to return void. I typically don't run down, but I keep it in there just because it's nice to have in case you need it. So a podcast is going to have, we want a UUID. We're probably going to want to add soft deletes. Some soft deletes in there. Probably want to hide my comment. That is a good point. Been one of those days. Right, okay, so let's pull this back over here. So we're going to have a title. We're going to have the podcast title. This one, for example, is Full Stack Radio. I suppose we could pull in the generator just for analytical purposes in the background if we really wanted to look into these things. So we could we'll make it nullable, obviously, just in case. Generator. Then we'll probably get something like description, which we will keep as a nice text column. Again, we'll make nullable just in case they don't have it. We'll add copyright as well. So we'll make that nullable in case it's not been added for any specific reason, which I believe it should be, but it's something that I'd have to look up at in the XML spec for podcasts, for example. The language we're definitely going to want. We should always provide a language. Eventually, we might move that to be something different, or maybe it could be in multiple languages. I don't know, but we'll have a look. Published date. That's not not relevant to the podcast itself. Last build date, not that relevant either, but the link will be. So we can go table string. This should definitely be unique. But I won't worry because I don't want to add like any unique keys or anything. I don't want to add any kind of indexes yet. I'll worry about indexing once I've kind of scaffolded out how the data works and how I want to search, so I can start to index in a smart way. And I like to add external URL on instead of just like link, because it points to an external URL. It makes a lot of sense to me. Image. How do we want to store? Because we don't want to store the image locally, do we? We're probably going to want like title and the link. So maybe we can make like an image castable sort of JSON sort of column. So I just do JSON for now, and we'll just say image, but we will say that this is nullable. Category. Eventually, we're going to have to make some categories. We'll need a model and migration. We've got the author already, I believe. No, we don't. Got the copyright. We don't have the author, so let's put that next to it. So string author. Always going to want the author because that should always be pulled through. Summary, subtitle, keywords. Okay, so we've got Google, item. Okay, so owner. We're not too bothered about that stuff right now. But we'll add it. We'll add it just in case we want it later on. So we're going to say table JSON owner nullable. So what we're going to have here, we've got a title of a podcast, we've got what generated it, description, the author, the copyright information, what language it's in, a link to it. We should probably store the feed URL as well. So we've got something persistent we can come back to. So we've got a feed URL and an external URL. We've got an image, which is nullable, so that we can store things like the title and the link, so we can do proper fig captions and that sort of stuff where possible. And the owner, we should be able to get like the name and email, hopefully, as long as we can access these things nicely. But we'll try. Let's give it a go. So category. So I'm going to quickly create another migration. PHP artisan, make a migration, create categories table, and we're going to create categories. We will have a model. I'm going to manually create that myself. So in here, we're just going to create a category.php, and it's going to be relatively similar to this. So we'll just grab that, paste that across, and we'll say category. That's fine. We've got a category within the catalog, which means now we can come back to the database. And what I tend to do, I just tend to rename this if I've done something too late. So I can say 4903. Which will come afterwards, which means I can now get this beforehand and I can do this the way I want to. So table, string, and just a category name. We'll put a UUID on it because we might want to route it at some point. We don't need any sort of timestamps. So we can just ignore some of that, and let's come back to category, and let's make sure that we don't forget to say that public timestamps is false. Then on here, we need to tell this to use soft deletes. So now we can start actually filling some of this in. So we're just going to UUID and a name on the category itself. So UUID name, but nothing is going to be casting at that point. So that's category done. Podcast, we also need like the name, the user and who created it. And we're also going to want that category now. So we can say nice foreign ID for user ID. And again, a table foreign ID for the category ID. Which means now we can come back here and start adding our fillables. So we know we've got a UUID. We know we have a title. We have a generator. We have a description. What else do we have? UID, title, generator, description, author, copyright, language. So author, copyright, language, external URL. Then we're going to have the feed URL. Ooh. Feed URL, image owner, user category. So image owner, user ID, and the feed, no, category ID. So we have our fillable stuff. So what have we got going on? Casting wise, we've got the image is there is a nice new way in Laravel to do this. So that's documentation. Array and JSON casting. There is a new way to do this. I remember seeing it as an array object. Is that what I want? Or as a collection? No, I don't really want that. I'm just going to do something like a array object. Cast your JSON attributes generation. Cache and transform mutated. Cool. Yeah, we'll do that as array object class. And then the owner is also going to be an as array object. We may customize that later on once we start to create and generate some of these. So we can now say the owner. So this podcast belongs to a user. So we can say return this belongs to the related aspect is going to be the user class, and the foreign key is going to be the user ID. So now we just need to make sure because we're doing domain driven, we need to make sure we pull this in, which we wouldn't usually have to do. So that means we can now come to the user and we can say that the user has many podcasts. We want people to be able to register more than one if they have more than one. So we can return this has many, and the related model is the podcast, and the foreign key is the user ID. So there's the user updated with the podcast, and now the podcast also has a category, public function category, which we belong to. So we can say return this belongs to the related category class, and that the foreign key is going to be category ID. that is all hooked up. So now that we can come back to the category and we can say that the category, we've got many. We have many. We say return this has many. Related is a podcast. And the foreign key is the category ID. So that is PHP 8 worthy. We could do attributes, but I haven't found a useful use for attributes just yet. So let's try and just migrate all of that. So let's just do a migrate fresh and seed. All of those are up there nicely. Perfect. So what we want to do is we want to ideally we want to click a button to say, okay, let's add our podcast. And let's start processing things. I did something very similar before. So if I go to PHP Online, my local version, what I'm going to do on Invoker, I'm just going to quickly clear the database and stuff. So let's come to here and let's say migrate fresh and seed. Run. That is running, blah, blah, blah. Let's see it run. That's going to do quite a bit in the background. All done. Perfect. So if I come back to here, I should be able to sign in with my default user. On this next part, feeds. So this is something I created before. So what you do, you click submit a new feed. We'll say just Steve King. This is my personal feed. So we can say just steveking.uk/feed. Or no, just do the website URL, sorry. Then we verify. Then we detect what feeds are available. And I've got an RSS feed. I can then click save. That then goes through a verification process, but that is not what I'm going to be doing here. So what we're doing in the background here is we're grabbing the basics, and then we're going to dispatch a job in the background to start allowing us to kind of crawl some of this. So enough about PHP Online, because that's not what we're building here. We're building something to do some magic with this. So dashboard, log back in. How do we want this to work? We kind of need to test it a little bit first. We need to see how we're going to do it. So if I just copy the link to that, if I come over to Tinker over here or something, let's do a quick feed file is that, and we could do something like let's just do a quick dime dump on file get contents on the feed file. Let's just see how it comes back. Run that. Not going to do it, is it? Not going to do it. Okay. What's going on? Is my audio still working? Yes. So my headphones keep freaking out on me. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that bit. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So where are we? So we need to build a UI for this. I don't want to worry about that too much just yet. I want to make sure that we're getting parts of this. So I'm going to build a command. We're going to want a command, aren't we? So let's have a look. We initially look for commands within console within console kernel, how we're loading these in. So app, is it in here? Where are we loading commands from? I'm pretty sure that's probably in public index. Auto load, bootstrapping the app. There's all of that stuff. So over in bootstrap cache app, we're going to get a foundation app, singleton, console. We're going to load from there, which is going to load up our kernel here, where we can add some schedule, or we can load commands directly from there or from the roots. So we're probably going to have to add some console in our commands in the roots that are going to be within our domain here, which isn't the end of the world. That should be fine for now. We'll look at if we need to refactor that later. So what we'll do, domain, this is to do with the catalog. So we can say console, this is where our commands are going to live. So we'll follow the same pattern for now. What we'll do, we'll just create a test one so we can follow a blueprint. PHP artisan make a command, and we're going to call this fetch podcast feed. Let's do that for now. And console commands, we're just going to move this into there. So our commands in Laravel are similar to Symfony. Yes, it's using the Symfony component underneath, so it's not too dissimilar. Right, so the namespace is going to be caster domains catalog console commands. Then we're going to use the illuminate command, name of the command, any description. You don't really need a constructor. And this is going to return an int. So if we just give this a name quickly, and we'll just say podcast fetch, like the URL. Fetch the feed from a podcast to this. I mean, with this, we're not going to use this, admittedly. So we'll just do an artisan command, and we can actually add a class name within this artisan command name here. So we can say the command is going to be the fetch podcast feed, and that the callback is, oh, no, I don't even need to call back, do I? I don't think. Should be able to do that. So if I do PHP artisan now, some of it has not been set. Okay, it's complaining about that. Let's do that again. Call static command. Okay, so that isn't what we want, is it? Let's have a look at the docs, because if all else fails, console command, writing commands, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Registering commands. Okay, so we can load it from other places. So we don't actually have to do the routing. That's great. Cool. Let's just drop it. So we can come back over to the kernel, and we can say, okay, so this load, what did that say to do there? That's probably doing it slightly differently to how I'm doing it. What's base path going to return? That's going to base path of the install. So we could probably do something like base path Then we're going to pass in the source domains catalog console commands. Cool. So now this should have loaded something in, but it's not. Okay. Will it allow me to do that? Fetch podcast fetch. No, I might just have to look at that a little bit later. And for now, I'm just going to manually register them. And we'll look to refactor a little bit later on because we don't want to spend too long. So if I do PHP artisan that, missing argument URL, perfect. So now I can come back to Full Stack Radio. I can copy the link to that. And let's just clear some of the view here so you can see what's going to happen a bit more. So I can, perfect, that is passing. So virtual podcast feed, win handle here, we should be able to get the arguments. So the way we can do that is arguments, user options. So we should be able to, I think it's like this arguments or something. So if I just do a dime dump on this argument URL, got it. So I know I can get that. So let's do a dime dump on file get contents, this argument URL. We can get the feed. I mean, we could go the whole, let's do lots of HTTP stuff. But for now, I'm just going to grab this as a string. Maybe. Or no, I'm going to use laminas feed. I'm going to do it properly. I'll behave. So we'll do a composer require laminas feed. And then we're also going to require laminas HTTP because it works better together. It won't clash with Guzzle, which is fine. So now I can say feed is a reader. Import class, laminas feed reader. Let's go there, and we can just say, let's go to the docs. The docs are pretty good, actually. Laminas feed. Yeah. So basic usage. Let's just go for basic usage straight away. Importing a feed. So we can just say like import. Import URI is this argument's URL. So then we've got the feed. Now let's just dime dump on the feed to see what it gives us. This should give us like a big chunk of XML, which is, nope. Yes, it's giving us everything that we wanted. Perfect. So what I tend to do is, like if I get the feed and I say something like to or save XML, or let's look at the docs. The docs has got a good explanation. You can start cycling through all of the different parts of the prefix and the XPath and all that stuff, which is a bit of a pain. But it's not nice, I'm not going to lie. Retrieving feed information, some of these just don't work for some reason. I think it's aimed at more RSS feeds than anything. Okay, we're just gonna try. Okay, so for each feed as an item, this will give us a new thing. So we can say the item that we have got. I think we can save the XML. Yes, we've got that. So now we can say something like that our data is, we're going to cast it to an array because XML is horrible to work with. And let's just die dump on the data and make sure it looks how we want it to. Oh, is it? Is it? No, that's not quite what we want. So what we're going to do, I've done this before. I'm just going to open up PHP Online, and in our jobs, podcasts, fetch podcast data. So we're doing open graph stuff there. We're not wanting to do that right now. Handler import, for each one, we're going to convert to an object and then handle. So that handler. XML, simple XML load string. That's what we want to do. Then we're going to want to cast the output of that to an array. And that should give us what we want. Yes, gives us most of what we want. So you can get the author. We can't get like the owner or get parts of it. Let's have a look, see if we can do it before, because we don't want the whole feed. We just want to say data is array that feed save XML. Feed get. We'll just say feed. Let's see what happens to the data on that part. Probably going to complain here. Feed interface, expected type string, got feed interface. So we look at the feed. Let's have a look at the feed, see what we can actually get from this. Will it give us something in the docs, or am I going to be jumping around everywhere? Importing feeds. So we've got that. We've got import file, dumping the contents of a feed save XML. So we should be able to just say feed XML. So we should be able to say save XML. Let's just see what it says. It's giving us it. It's giving us all the episodes. It's giving us everything. So what we could actually do, we could start processing this. So let's drop that. Let's drop how we're doing things in there. And let's just do something like do that, and we're just going to pipe that through more quickly. So we're getting aspects of it. We've got the attributes, the channel. So we want the channel. That's what we want. So let's get the channel. That's a simple XML element. So again, we're going to have to cast something to an array. So there's lots of array casting when it comes to XML feeds. That means we can get everything we actually need. So if we're going to do this the way that I'd want to do it, this is where I'd want to create like a DTO factory and a DTO, and I want to start building things properly. But right now, I'm not too sure how best to do that, because at this point, all I need is a channel. After that, I'm going to get the items, and that's fine. 10-hour stream. No, my wife would kill me. For now, I think I might leave it as it is. I mean, all we need to do at this point is just say something like podcasts, create, and our data will go in there. But we want to follow like some better principles than just let's do lots of create methods. Eventually, this command won't even exist. So for now, we'll call it a day. That's going to return. We're down dumping that. That's all good. What I will do is in our README, we're just going to grab this and we're just going to say, Custer. We'll just create a nice to-do list. So finish. Okay, so create DTO factories, create DTO. So we need a podcast DTO and a podcast DTO factory. After that, we're going to want a create dispatchable job. So something that's going to go in the background for fetch podcast items. And then we're also going to, hey, it's fucking Eric. I could say it too. Sparsies DTO. No, I'm probably just going to use my own. I don't need Sparsies for this. Now that PHP is out with a constructive promotion and the named arguments, I don't need the package. It's great, don't get me wrong, but I don't need it. Cheers, Eric.